Hello, everyone, and happy Tuesday. This is Dr. Samantha DeLoache, your model and pharmacist and your professional speaker coach. And I'm here today on this lovely Tuesday with another great conversation that I'll be having dealing with public speaking and business. And today I have the pleasure of having Carolyn Smith. But before I get into that, I just want to let you know that the Speakers Boot Camp did wrap up last week. It was phenomenal. We had a really great time. And if you missed it, that's so unfortunate, but no worries. I'm launching my Model Speakers Academy next month. And I'm really, really excited about that because public speaking and communication is so important. And I think a lot of times we downplay it and we don't just realize how, just in everyday life, it's important to be able to articulate your needs, your concerns, and being a better speaker can help you in so many facets of your life with your career, your business, and even in your personal life with your family, friends, people you come in contact with, associates, whatever. You have to be able to communicate. That is the thread that really binds us all together. And speaking is natural. I've said that before. Speaking is natural, but public speaking is a skill. And that's the thing. With practice, with diligence, with intentionality, anybody can improve their speaking. Anybody can learn tips and tools to help them become a better speaker. And so that's what my Model Speakers Academy is for. It's for some people who may have stage fright, people who don't feel they have the confidence to speak, to articulate themselves. Or let's say you are a speaker and you're used to talking, but you want to get a little more serious. You want to have a signature talk. You want to have a speech that is your talk, that you can actually pitch yourself to organizations, to schools, to your business. You want to be able to speak and get paid, maybe even, and you need help with branding. So we're going to cover all of that in my Speakers Academy. It's going to be an 8-week program, coaching program that you sign up for, and that you can literally get the tools to help you regardless of wherever you are on the journey. There's something for everyone, and it's a community of people coming together, supporting one another, and encouraging one another when it comes to speaking. So I'm really, really excited about this, and I hope you are excited and ready for it as well. So stay tuned. Make sure you're following my social media so that you can find out about the launch. I'll have a webinar to get everyone ready for it. So a lot of great things are happening here over at the Model Speakers Academy. But without any further ado, I want to turn it over to Carolyn Smith because she is my guest speaker for today. And she's going to talk about how public speaking is tying in with her business. And she's going to share about her business, its unique name. I'm not going to give it away. I'm going to let her say it. But we're going to really have a great conversation today. So go ahead, Carolyn, take it away.
All right. So I am the founder of The Introverted Misfit, which is a business that I started to help socially awkward and anxious introverts become socially confident versions of themselves without having to fake being someone that they're not. And so the story of how I came to create this business is really a story of being your authentic self while overcoming your fears. And so in my case, I had a severe fear of not just public speaking, but interacting with people in general. And it was because of my lack of social and communication skills that I had, pretty much all throughout my schooling years. And so after years of living with this, deep loneliness because I couldn't make the relationships and the friendships that I wanted to make, and as well as stunted career growth towards the beginning of my full time career as a software engineer, I decided that I'm going to fix it. And, I wasn't going to let this fear stop me from living the life that I wanted to live, in both my personal and my professional life. And so, because I was able to overcome those fears and really hone in on my social and communication skills without having to, fake being this extra lively, larger than life person that I'm just not. I'm an introvert. I'm quiet most of the time. I like to keep to myself. I decided that, there are probably other women out there who are struggling with the same fears that I had with shyness, social anxiety, social awkwardness, and, of course, public speaking, because all of that is part of that, right? And they probably want to change that too, so that their personal and professional lives can flourish. And so that's what I do with the Introverted Misfit.
Wow, that's so beautiful. And I love that you took something that was, hindering you and stunting you, and you said, you know what, I'm going to empower myself, and I'm going to take that step to better my situation. And you ended up, out of that, creating an entire brand, and now you're empowering other women who may suffer from the same thing. So I think, if anything, what we can get from just your opening is that you don't have to stay stuck. Many times we have experiences and things that we go through, and we feel like, oh, well, that's what I have. That's what I have to deal with. Like, there's no hope, that there's no way to change. And the first step was you had to be willing and wanting to make a change. And so I love that you said that wasn't your nature. You're introverted, but yet, look, we're doing a podcast, or we're doing a talk together. So you were able to still, like you said, be your authentic, unique self, because sometimes people feel they have to perform. And you're like, no, I don't have to do that. I can still embrace who I am, but still come out of my shell and be able to communicate with the world. So I commend you, first of all, for that. And I love that you're doing this, because I like to say a lot of times also, what we go through, our experiences, or whatever we think might be a setback for us, or our test for us, is really our testimony. And it's really our way to help somebody else. Like, what we go through, what we experience, is not just for us, but it's for us to share. So I love that. Definitely, definitely. So I guess my first question I'll ask you is, why do you believe public speaking is a crucial skill for business professionals today?
Yeah. So public speaking is a crucial skill to have because it allows you, but specifically in, the professional realm, because it allows you to strengthen trust and build relationships with the people who matter. So that means internally within the business operations, so like with your team, your coworkers, the higher ups, people who keep the business running, and also externally with potential clients whom you hope will trust you enough to give you their business, and potential networking partners with whom you may want to collaborate in the future. And I think it's easy, especially in the digital world. Everybody, including businesses, is online more than ever. It's easy to kind of think of businesses as abstract entities, if that makes sense. So, like, you think of Apple or Amazon or Toyota or something like that, or even a small business that has a website. It's easy to think that it's kind of abstract in a way, but in reality, people are behind the business. They're behind the business transactions, the business interactions, and people need and appreciate clear and understandable communication
Hmm.
to make businesses successful and profitable. And
Right,
so, yeah, that's why public speaking is such a crucial skill to have in the business world.
right. And I'm glad you brought that up, because the key word you said was trust. People want to be able to trust you. And so they want to know that you're a real person, that you have a voice, that they're dealing with a human. Because, yes, our world is very automated, and there are a lot of machines, a lot of computers, a lot of technology. But at the end of the day, people buy from people. They still want that human element, they want to interact. And so, especially with COVID and the world being shut down, people are now, slowly moving back to wanting to do more face to face interactions and having those conversations. When you are on those phone calls and you have an issue, it's like you want to keep hitting that button zero, because you want to talk to a person. You don't want to keep
Yes,
talking to a
right.
machine. You want to have that human interaction. So that's beautiful. And I just wanted to say, for you, how long was your process, I guess, from, being a little more introverted, not wanting to speak up, and then your process of taking control and then creating your business, if you don't mind?
Yeah, I would say it was about a 2-year process,
Okay.
and it included a little bit of counseling
Okay.
towards the beginning, and I will say you can take all the counseling and therapy that you want to take, but it really all starts with when you decide you want to make a change to do something. And so at some point, a year into that counseling, I had to say, okay, I'm ready to fix this problem that has been holding me back for so long. And so I started small. I went to, I had this big fear of going out in public, and I would like not meet people's eye contact because I was so scared that it was going to lead to an interaction. And so, like I would purposefully dress down when I was in public, hoping that people wouldn't notice me. They just wouldn't talk to me. Yeah, I could just go in and do what I wanted to do. And so I started small by deciding that I'm not going to hide behind that anymore. I'm going to go for a walk. And the first person that I see walking towards me, instead of turning around and, running away from that interaction, I'm going to keep walking. I'm not going to stare down at my phone and pretend like I don't see them. I'm going to look them in the eye, smile, and I'm just going to say good morning. And that's
Mm,
it. It didn't even lead to a conversation per se, but what that was doing was building up my confidence to, that people are not as scary as you think they are.
mhm.
And so, yeah, I would say it was about a 2-year process of doing um, small ventures like that until I got to the point where, okay, I can go to this my office's holiday party, and even if I'm not an extrovert, I can't entertain 10 people at once. I have a sister who is literally the exact opposite of me. She can walk into a room and like immediately capture the attention of like 10 people and they'll all be friends immediately. I'm not like that.
Right, right.
But I can find one or two people and I can start a conversation with them, and it doesn't have to be a big deal. So yeah, getting over that fear of rejection, starting small, and all the way up to the point where I'm starting my own business and talking to you right now.
Wow, that's such an amazing and beautiful transformation. And you said so many key nuggets. You said you were okay with getting therapy. And I think many people tend to still, especially in the African American community, don't feel as comfortable getting therapy.
Hmm.
And I love that you said, hey, I went to therapy, because it's nothing wrong with talking to someone who can just give you an objective, response, who can hear you out, listen to you, be a sounding board. So I think that's what we need to embrace more, that there's nothing wrong with you because you want to talk to somebody. We
Absolutely.
all can bounce some ideas, or, need to have a safe place where we can confide in someone and share what we're going through, because there's a big mental health crisis in the United States and probably across the world, because so
Yeah.
many people are bottling things in. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to share, and they want to just pretend like nothing's wrong when they know something is going on. But it's like they need to get it out instead of just keeping it balled up inside. So
Right.
that's very, very good. And then I like how you said start small. People think they got to do so much. Nobody said go from introvert and then talking on Channel 9 News tonight. Nobody said you had to, go and stand in front of 5,000 people and give a talk. But like you said, you noticed you were hiding away, you were avoiding situations, social situations. And so you made small steps to say, hey, I'm going to conquer it. I'm going to start by going out more. I'm going to not try to, hide myself in appearance. I'm going to, meet eye contact. I'm going to say hello, say good morning. Just small steps that continue
Hmm.
to build on one another. And then, like you said, now, boom, you have your own business. You're able to go to social settings. You know your limit. I can't do 10 people, but I can do two. I can only talk
Right.
to one person. I can only maybe hang out for an hour. But you made the small steps and adjustments that fit yourself, and you didn't allow, like you said, you have an extroverted sister. You didn't allow that to have to be your standard. That's how she is. But each person has to find out what works for them. And that's
Hmm.
what you did. So I love everything you just shared, because you're showing live and in living color that it can happen. But like you said, you have to make the decision. Nobody else, a therapist, your friends, your family, your job, your sister, your mom, anybody, you have to say, hey, I'm ready to take control of my life. I am tired of this situation overpowering me, and I'm going to get my power back. So I love that. I absolutely love it. So my next question is, can you share a personal experience where effective public speaking significantly impacted your career or business?
Yes, I can. And I'll do you one better. I'm going to give you an example of a situation with public speaking that negatively impacted my career, like early on at my first job, because of
Mhm.
my lack of, communication skills. So, straight out of college, I went to school at Auburn University, got my degree in computer science and software engineering. And so I started my career as a software engineer with a construction software company. And in the very first conference meeting we had, it was after 2 weeks of working there. We were supposed to be presenting what all we had learned and accomplished during those first 2 weeks. Because, all of the new employees that were being onboarded had to go through what they call a starter project, a coding project. And, we have to present this in front of the higher ups, the CEO, the vice president, and the rest of the development team, right? And so in this meeting, I was so nervous to present that I'm not even kidding when I tell you I could barely speak above like a whisper.
Oh, wow.
And I wasn't looking people in the eye when I
Mhm.
spoke. Basically, I took a public speaking course in college. Everything that they taught you not to do is basically what I did just because my nerves were so bad.
Mm.
And, in the next progress meeting, it was the personal meetings. So like it was just me, the CEO, and the vice president. And, they had to tell me in the nicest way possible that I really needed to work on my confidence, right? Because especially when presenting in front of people, because they could barely hear what I said. And it was at that moment that I realized I was so hyper focused on what they may or may not be thinking about me in that moment. It was
Mhm.
affecting my ability to communicate effectively with
Wow.
my team. And even though I knew the progress that I had made on the project and, working there for 2 years, I knew that it was good. I was learning a lot, but it didn't really matter because instead of focusing on what I had done, they couldn't hear me. They were focusing on my nervousness and poor presentation. And
Mm.
so, yeah, now that I've worked on that for a couple of years, and I can say that I've improved my public speaking skills and well, my communication skills in general,
Mhm.
the difference in how my work and my ideas are perceived among my peers is vastly different than before.
Wow.
People trust me enough to ask my opinion on things now
Mm.
when that didn't used to happen before. And I started getting pulled into meetings that I previously would have never been invited to. Like I'd literally be sitting at my desk doing my work, and my boss would come by and say, "Hey, I think you should be in this meeting because you have some valuable insight. You said that one thing in that other meeting. So maybe we can bounce some ideas." Stuff like that started to happen. So,
Mm.
yeah, there is real power that can, and change that can be made when you are able to remain calm,
Mhm.
focus on the task at hand, the presentation,
Right.
look people in the eye, and
Mhm.
give a well organized, thoughtful presentation.
Wow.
And yeah, even that was my full time career. But even in my business with the introverted misfit, it's still fairly new at this point. But I've already seen the benefits of communication skills and public speaking. So my very first guest interview, which is before this one, this is my second one. In this interview that I gave, she liked my ideas so much and the story behind my brand
Mhm.
that she emailed me and said, "Hey, I don't usually do this, but can we have a follow up meeting with you because I want to talk to you about the future of the introverted misfit." And
Mm.
for 2 hours, like in the evening when people are trying to not think about work, basically
Mhm.
for 2 hours, she sat there and gave me free knowledge, that was very valuable to a new entrepreneur like myself because she's been in the game for 5 years now, and she's a successful entrepreneur. She's already had to learn all her lessons the hard way, and she's
Mhm.
given me that advice for free. And all I did was I was able to communicate my ideas clearly in a way that connected with her, right?
Mhm.
And you know, even if we don't end up collaborating
Right.
officially in
Right.
the future, the wealth of knowledge and wisdom that I got in those 2 hours
Mm.
as I'm a new business owner on my journey, that's the power of good communication and being able to connect with people.
Wow. That's excellent. Like, not only did you talk about how you saw the improvement in your job and how now people are coming to you seeking opportunities to collaborate or hear your voice, because you were able to articulate, your work, what you're doing,
Hmm.
because like you said, no matter how much good work you do, if you can't share it, if you can't articulate it, then it's all for naught, because people need to be able to hear it. They need to be able to see it. And so not only verbal communication, but written communication, but you have to be able to show your value. And so that was excellent. So not only did you turn around for your professional, but then even for your business, like you said, you were able to talk and communicate with someone else, and that opened the door and that gave you a wealth of information. So
Right.
communication is so important. And if you're not confident in it, it's okay, because there are many people who are not confident in it. The thing is, you don't want to stay stuck. You want to practice with
Yes.
it. And that's the key thing I tell everybody, that in order to get better, and that's with any area, in anything, the first time you do it, you're not going to be your best. But the
Mhm.
more you do it, the more you practice, the more you prepare, the better off you'll be. And so public speaking is no different. You have to put in that time and intentionality to become a better speaker. And so, wow, I applaud you. Just like you said, you're seeing instant results of your dedication and your decision. The decision you
Mhm.
made to change your circumstances is showing off in so many ways with your business, both professionally and personally. And so many people could probably have higher level positions right now in their jobs. They could possibly be making more money on the hour, but they're not able to articulate themselves. They're not able to speak up for themselves. They don't know how to look people in the eye. They don't know how to give firm handshakes. They don't know how to
Mhm.
present that confidence that says, hey, I'm worth that promotion. I'm worth that raise. If you don't show it, if you can't articulate it, then why is your boss going to do it? Why is your job going to do it?
Right.
If you're going to continue to hide behind the shadows, then yeah, they're going to keep stepping over you or keep looking over you and getting the next person. And guess what? The next person may not even be as qualified. They may not even have the knowledge, the education, the experience, but they can talk a good talk. And
Right.
because they can talk that talk, and the walk will eventually catch up, because they're able to talk. And hey, you may find yourself in a position where you're training the person that you should be leading, but that person can speak and articulate themselves better. And so that's why
Mhm.
I like to share with people, public speaking is for everything. Proper communication is literally for every area of your life. And
Right.
so people need to take it seriously. And if they need help, there's help there. I tell people that there are free options. There's YouTube University, there's Toastmasters. And then, yeah, you have paid programs like myself. But the key thing is you need to find out what's going to work for you, because many
Mhm.
times people are not going to take time to follow up or be consistent when they have to do it by themselves. When they do it by themselves, the success rate is not as high. But when you have somebody doing it with you, you have a coach, somebody who can keep you accountable, somebody who can
Yes.
come alongside you, encourage you, and help you with tailor-made things specifically for you, then that's where the difference comes in. So yeah,
Mhm.
people have to realize, you have to make that decision. Am I going to keep doing what I've been doing and keep getting the same results? Or am I going to bet on myself, invest in myself, and make the decision to do better? So wow, that
Mhm.
was that was excellent. So my next question is, what are some common public speaking challenges that business professionals face, and how can they overcome them?
So I think one challenge is really mastering the art of being engaging and interesting, so that people can actually care about what you have to say and
Right.
can connect with you on a deeper level. So when I say engaging, that includes sharing relevant personal stories and examples,
Mm-hmm.
using your vocal inflections and your facial expressions,
Right.
hand movements to be more interesting, getting them involved by maybe polling them or asking them
Mm-hmm.
questions, asking for their feedback. So, as I'm saying this, I'm thinking back on my high school and college days when we had to sit through those hour-long lectures every day. And
Mm-hmm.
you know how there are those teachers that, everybody really enjoyed them because they tried to make their content as hands-on and interesting as possible, or as interesting as the subject could be, right?
Right.
And
Right.
then there are those teachers that everybody just dreads going to their class because they speak in a very monotone speaking voice.
Uh-huh.
They pretty much speak like, teach word for word from the book. And it's just like putting everybody to sleep, right? And I found out that the difference between the boring and, not so boring teachers is not necessarily the fact that they can get up and jump around and, slam on the desk and, crack jokes and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's their ability to engage the students
Right.
and capture their attention. So
Right.
like even more recently, this just one more example. The one thing that I admire about my very first boss, who's at the this is the construction software job. The very first boss I had was his ability to, like use his personal experiences and
Mm-hmm.
examples and stories to keep the meetings, the conference meetings engaging and,
Mm-hmm.
to keep new ideas flowing. He was really good at that. So we would be having a meeting about how to come up with this new marketing initiative. So like how we can market our software to these construction professionals, right? And he just had this great ability to read the room and tell when people are kind of getting tired,
Mm-hmm.
about talking about the same thing or they're getting bored. And so, like, it was kind of random, but somehow he would end up telling us, like, the one thing that I remember, the one story that I remember, he would end up telling us this story about these beautiful rose bushes that he saw on his morning run. And so
Uh-huh.
automatically we're thinking, like, what what does roses have to do with construction software, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then he would go on to explain, how this led him to Google, what are some rose bushes that I can put in my own garden, some new interesting colors and stuff. And he came across this website of roses, and he noticed how plain and simple the website interface looked. And in this particular story he was telling us, he was saying how the more he thought about it, he realized that the beauty of the roses is that the pictures really do all of the marketing for themselves without any extra fancy stuff, because people are only interested in what the roses will look like in their yard. And then
Right.
secondarily it's the care instructions and how much it cost and what all.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a plain website, and the images, the beautiful captivating images really did all the work, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't have to do all this extra over the top website marketing, you know
Mm-hmm.
and so he used that as an example of how they really understood their target audience's needs and wants. And
Right.
so then he would end this story with a question for us. So, like, what do our clients need and want in a software product? And what is the simplest way we can communicate that our software meets those needs? And that's how he would,
Mm-hmm.
connect those two seemingly random things. And it was kind of amazing to, witness how, after doing this, telling a story like this and asking a question like that, the people in the meeting were much more willing to engage with him and
Mm-hmm.
speak and bounce ideas off of him. And like, you could see the wheels turning because he was able to engage them. So that might be like a more abstract example, but like the main thing I'm getting at is the ability to engage an audience like that,
Mm-hmm.
and make them interested genuinely in what you have to say. You're asking them thought-provoking questions,
Mm-hmm.
getting them thinking about things from a different perspective.
Right.
um, you know that's what keeps an audience engaged. So,
Right.
don't be afraid to give some real life examples from your own life or some
Mm-hmm.
stories, or ask them
Mm-hmm.
really intriguing questions. So yeah, that's probably the one of the main challenges, I would say.
Wow, that was a great example. And like you said, engagement is huge because people want to be able to relate to your story. They want to be
Yeah.
able to feel like, okay, I know what that person's talking about, or I've had that experience. And that's what speakers have to realize. Whenever you have the floor, the mic, the podium, you're the leader at that moment, because you're
Hmm.
leading that conversation. And what you have to realize, like you said, your boss was able to read the room. We have to have that ability too, to be able to read the
Yeah.
room and figure out what is it that they need and how can I convey that message to them where they'll understand it and where they'll want to hear more. And so that is something key that we have to be able to engage our listeners, our people who are tuned in, because you have to sometimes get them right away. You don't want to have to wait and build it up. You want to be able to grab their attention and hold on to it so that they can get the
Right.
message. Because when you're talking, it's not for you. It's about you're giving the message to them. So we have to realize it's not about us whenever we're in front of people, but how can I help them be better? How can I help them gain some more insight And I love how he talked about roses, and like you said, and brought it over to construction, because that's what we have to do sometimes is meet people where they are, and bring up topics or examples of stories in our lives or just in situations where we know people can relate, and then make the connection. And so, as long as you
Right.
can make that connection, you really can talk about just about anything, within reason, but be able to
Mhm.
tie it in, grab their attention, and then make it where it comes all together and why they need to know this.
Yeah. Hmm.
So I love that. And my last question is, what is one essential tip you would give to someone looking to improve their public speaking skills?
So my tip is actually one that you just, so eloquently said. And that tip is to put all of the focus on the audience and how you can help them. And I say that because, towards the beginning of this stream, I talked about how I was living with social anxiety to the point where I just, I was so focused on what other people may or may not be thinking about me that it was making me like really depressed. Like I couldn't even have a conversation with someone in public, and I was so nervous in public, just simple basic public interactions, that it was becoming a problem for me. And
Mm-hmm,
so I what I learned is that the more you think about yourself, the
mm-hmm,
more nervous you're going to be, and that nervousness will likely be noticeable to the audience. So instead of focusing on yourself, focus on how everything that you can do and say will make this presentation helpful and motivational for them. So that
right.
means making sure that you speak clearly and at a good volume so that they aren't straining to hear what you're saying, right?
Right.
And like I just said, using some practical examples or stories
Mm-hmm,
so that you can tie it back to what you're talking about so that they can relate a little better, and so that they can better understand what you're saying and be engaged. Essentially, in everything that you do and say in the presentation, keep the audience at the forefront. And what I found is that almost always makes your presentation much more meaningful and helpful. And in the process, it lessens your own nerves and your anxiety that you may have about public speaking. So that's my one tip.
That's an excellent tip. And that's funny how we were on the same page. But yes, definitely, it's not about us. It's not about the
Hmm.
speaker. It's about the value you're bringing to your audience, to the people
Yes.
listening. And if you keep that at the forefront, like you said, you don't have time to worry about yourself. You're busy worrying about how can I be an asset? How can I give them some jewels? How can I give them a call to action? Let them leave here with some memorable quote or some story, like how that story about the roses, you still remember.
Hmm.
So how can I give them something that they're gonna always remember? That when they finish the presentation, when they finish or they leave from hearing me talk, what are they gonna hold on to? What is gonna
Right.
resonate? And that's what you want to do. You want to create that value, create that memory. So they're like, yeah, I remember when that lady came and spoke, or when that man came and spoke, and they said dot dot dot, and I never forgot it. And we can all reflect back on conversations like you had your story, or just different times when we were in a presentation or in a message, and we heard something that just stuck with us. And so that's what we want to do. We want to leave people with lasting memories that have them be better. So that was excellent. So I just want to thank you so much, Carolyn, for taking the time to come just tell your story, for being transparent, for sharing and really encouraging those who may be struggling with what you've struggled with, but being able to leave them a message of empowerment that you true can take control of your life, and that you can have a different story. Like your story can start one way, but it doesn't have to end
Hmm.
that way.
Yeah.
We all have a story to tell. We all have something to share, but having the courage, having the tools to be able to articulate that message, and share it with an audience, no matter what the size, whether it's 3 people or 3,000, but just having that confidence to be able to authentically express yourself is such a beautiful thing. And so thank you for sharing that. And again, if there's someone listening who has some trouble with public speaking or having the confidence to speak, or even may want to work with Carolyn, can you share some information about your business, how to stay in contact with you, and what you might have coming up?
Yes. So, I'm very excited to announce that I, recently launched the Introverted Misfit podcast. And so every week I discuss really a wide realm of topics related to human connection and communication, social skills, social anxiety, topics that will help you to create thriving and fulfilling relationships in both your personal and your professional life. And so I'll actually have a new episode that will be released tomorrow. So make sure you can, stay tuned with that. You can listen on Spotify, Apple, and even YouTube. You can find all that information at theintrovertedmisfit.com/podcast. I also have my weekly newsletter that lets you know about any upcoming events and collaborations that you may be interested in. I'm looking into having some guests in the future on my podcast once I get past, um, kind of hone in those podcasting skills because I'm very new to this. So
Okay.
make sign up for my weekly newsletter by going to my website, theintrovertedmisfit.com, and scrolling all the way down to the footer, and you can enter your name and email in that form there. And then you can also contact me also on my website, theintrovertedmisfit.com/contact. And on that page, you can also connect with me on LinkedIn. And one more thing, I am going to be releasing my own course in September, still kind of a to be determined date, but
Mhm.
sometime in September. And it's going to be called Communicate with Quiet Confidence. And it is specifically a course for introverted women who struggle with social anxiety and social awkwardness, really building confidence in themselves and honing in on those social skills deficits and communication deficits that they may have. And yeah, that's it for me.
That's a lot. So you all heard it. She has a podcast, she has a newsletter, and she has a course dropping next month. So September must be a really special month that all these great things are happening for women who may be introverted, who have dealt with some of the struggles and are still struggling with some of the things that Carolyn went through, but now she's on the other side of it. Now she's got her hand extended back to help somebody else come walk forward. And that's what it's all about. When you overcome something, when you become better, when you become an expert, then it's not for you to just, shut the door and say, hey, I got it. So I'm not worried about the next person. It's about how can I help the next person who had the same experiences and maybe help them get over it quicker than I did because I have the template now. I've been through it. So I know the framework. So now I can help you be better. So that's excellent. So really there's no excuse for anybody at this point. You can join the Model Speakers Academy to help with your public speaking, any and everything to get you to the next level. And if you are still struggling with that confidence to become even just able to speak and share and not hide from the world, Carolyn's course will definitely be something to check out. So definitely you want to follow Carolyn Smith and you want to get the Introverted Misfit. You want to definitely get that newsletter, definitely listen to that podcast, and you definitely want to check out that course if you're a woman who may be struggling in those areas. And again, the Model Speakers Academy will be launching next month as well. So you want to check that out as well for all things public speaking to help you craft your signature talk, help you with storytelling, and help you if you want to get to the next level of maybe even being a paid speaker, because there are many people who get paid for their messages. And you can be one of those folks as well. You can be positioned for excellence when it comes to speaking. So thank you again, Carolyn, for coming, for sharing. And again, everyone, watch this message. If you're watching the replay, put replay in the comments below. But stay tuned because I will have another public speaking and business conversation for you